All right, again, so commerce means trade. Now, the people of Europe wanted to get to the products that were in Asia. The people in Europe wanted to get to the products that were in Asia. And they saw this. They first saw these products of Asia when the Crusades were happening. So basically the Europeans went on the Crusades. They saw the cities of Jerusalem. They saw the cities of Damascus. And they saw how many goods were in these cities. And many people were thinking, hey, if I could take some of these goods and bring them back to Europe, I could sell these and make money. So when the Crusades were done, a lot of people started building ships, especially in Italy. There became a whole shipbuilding industry, especially in Italy, of people building ships so they could take them and go on the Mediterranean and go to the rich cities of the Muslim world. And again, we see where Italy is right here. Italy has a geographic advantage. They can get access to all of these areas here that have a lot of trade. So a shipbuilding industry starts, and many people would rather work for a shipbuilding industry or traveling to these parts of the Middle East than to, live with the nobles on the land. So it becomes a growth in merchants, or people who are traveling and people who want to sell these goods. And again, the products they were looking for, the silks, the precious stones, the perfumes, spices, pearls, and ivory. The rich people of Europe especially wanted these products. So many people realized, hey, if I want to make money, I'll get these products and bring them back. And this especially grew in the merchant families of the Italian city-states. So Europeans quickly learned that spices such as pepper and cinnamon could be used to preserve meats, or add flavor even to the meats that were rotten or rancid. Soon, many in Europe considered spices to be a necessity. And the merchant families who could fill their ships full of spices and bring them back to Europe grew in wealth. And when they are going to bring their ships, what are they going to need? People to board them. They're going to need to hire people. When they bring all the spices back, they're going to need people to sell them, to help sell them. So what are these merchant families going to be able to do? Yeah, have their own businesses and provide jobs for people. Jobs outside of just the farming. This will help grow the cities in Europe. And many people would much rather work in a business selling something than farming all day in a field for a noble. And this will change the whole structure of society in Europe. The merchants will continue to grow, and they will become powerful. And this will lead to the Renaissance, because these rich families are going to be the ones to sponsor the Renaissance that's going to come. So the Renaissance hasn't happened yet, but this is what leads to the Renaissance growing. All right, let's move ahead. Now let's look at the city of Florence and the Medici family. The wealthy merchant families of Italy played a huge role in promoting the Renaissance. They were worldly, meaning they liked traveling around the world. They were materialistic. They liked their goods. They liked their things they could sell. They liked their things they could buy. They wanted good stuff from around the world. And they knew where to get it. They knew they could get it by funding ships, going to the Muslim world, buying it, and bringing it back to Europe. They also used their wealth to sponsor new cultural activities, and they financed the study of classical works. So they fueled intellectual growth, artistic growth. And a lot of these wealthy families really, really liked and respected artists who were original, who were creative, and who were working really hard to produce their works. And I mentioned this before when we had this lecture, but can you see why these people who would travel the world for goods and were making their own fortunes would respect an artist who was original, who was creative, and who was willing to put all their time into their work? They saw them as being a similar person. They were someone who was trying to create themselves. The Renaissance was basically a time where your hard work and you could make yourself, you could move up in the world. And it celebrated human achievement. Now, northern Italy is where we see this really start. And in northern Italy, there were large city-states, where the rest of Europe was kind of like the country. It was rural. There weren't many cities in the rest of Europe. But northern Italy had a lot of city-states. And these city-states were an exchange of ideas happened. One of the best things about cities is that cities tend to foster ideas. You have different kinds of people. Different ideas can grow. And something big also happens in Europe, the Bubonic Plague. So the Bubonic Plague spreads in Europe. The Bubonic Plague kills 60% of some of the people who live in these Italian cities. It spreads more in cities than in the country. The rest of Europe as a whole, 1/3, somewhere between 1/3 and 1/4 of people died because of the Bubonic Plague. It's actually a disease spread by like rats and like the fleas that were on it. It's kind of a nasty thing. And again, as we talked about, the Ring Around the Rosie song comes from the Bubonic Plague. Ring around the rosy, pockets full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Because ashes was from the color of your face, God, as it turned gray as you were dying. Pockets full of posies was the flowers that would be with you when you died. That's what that song's actually about. Kind of creepy, isn't it? All right. Now, in Italy it was worse, but what happened was, this is a horrible thing that led to something good. Because so many people died in the Italian city-states, jobs were available. They had to pay people more money to do jobs because there were less people around. So the survivors lived better. They could demand more money. And this trade causes a rich merchant class to develop. A rich merchant class develops because of this, of business people. Now, more cities in places like Milan, especially Florence, get involved. Florence is the center and the capital of the Renaissance. And again, this is where the merchants gain power. And what's different in European society is you get power and money not because you were born with it, but because of your business skill. So you're not rich just because of how you were born. You can actually create your own money. And again, it values individual achievement. A couple things about Florence. Florence was a republic. It was a republic, which was rare, so people actually voted in Florence. It was a republic since 1200. But the Medici family came in, and they took power. And they were pretty much the dictators of Florence. They were extremely wealthy, and they gave money and funded artists like Sandro Botticelli. Lorenzo the Magnificent, he became the head of the family when his father died, and he was the one who really started wanting to bring people into the family and showed their power and sponsored artists. The Medici family was incredibly powerful. Their power even spread beyond Florence, so much that they were able to basically make it a business associate of theirs, a person who was on a ship who didn't buy the goods, he stole them, he was a pirate. And they were able to take this pirate, a guy who was robbing ships, and they were able to make him pope. So yes, there was a pope who was a pirate. And they were able to produce two queens of France. So their power was in Florence and well beyond. I'm going to stop.